Okay, so last time we looked at, excuse me, slope-intercept form, right? That was the y equals mx plus b. So for slope-intercept form, what were the important parts of slope-intercept form? Alex?
Y is on its own side.
Okay, so that was important to know it was in slope-intercept form. Y had to be by itself. What were the parts of slope-intercept form, though, that we used and cared about? Slope and the y-intercept, right? So it's pretty self-explanatory. Slope-intercept form, we use the slope and the y-intercept. What do you think we're going to use now with point-slope form? What? So a point and a slope, right? They're pretty self-explanatory, okay? Remember, our end goal is to be able to graph and write equations, okay? Sometimes, so I'm just going to scroll over here to the side. Sometimes they will either give you information that gives you an m, they'll say m is this, and b is this. That's great. They give you a slope and the specific y-intercept. So you can go straight into slope-intercept form. Or they'll give you a graph. And they'll show you this line that's graphed like this. Okay? Then from there, you are able to calculate the rise and the run, find the y-intercept, go from there, right? So those would be the easy cases, the ones that we've looked at. When it gets a little more challenging is when now maybe they give you, so they still give you the slope, but now instead of giving you your b value, maybe I will just broaden my horizons a little bit, be a little more vague about the information I'm going to give you, and maybe I'll just give you this point 6, 2. So instead of giving you this specific point right here, maybe they don't have that y-intercept there, or they don't give you that y-intercept, that b value. So now they've broadened their horizons a little bit, they've given you a little bit of a different piece of information, and you have to know what to do with it. Or maybe they get even more difficult and they say, well, I'm not even going to give you this slope, I just give you 3, 2, and -1, 5. Let's just give you 2 points on the graph. Well, then it gets even more challenging. Or they give you a graph that maybe looks like this, where they draw the graph and it looks like that. That doesn't mean it doesn't have a y-intercept. That just means the y-intercept is not on the graph, right? If I come all the way and extend this graph all the way up here somewhere, it will eventually cross the y-axis, but maybe it doesn't cross the y-axis on the graph that they give you. So I have to be skilled at still writing equations and graphing even when they don't give me that specific y-intercept value. Okay, and point slope is just another way to do that. So let's look here. See if I can get rid of all this junk. There we go. Alright, so now let's look. So the point slope form of an equation. Here we go. Okay, this looks a little intimidating when you first write it out and look at it, but I promise you it's not that bad. Okay, so don't moan and groan too bad. We'll decipher the pieces. We'll be fine. Okay, so it is y minus this y sub 1. Okay, so it's a little sub 1. It's not y to the first power. It's just y sub 1, kind of like what we saw on the slope formula, equals m, and you guys should all know what that means, right? What's m? Slope, good. And then in parentheses, x minus x sub 1. So I have y minus y sub 1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. Okay, and well, what does all that mean? Well, remember with y equals mx plus b, we still had a y in our equation, and we still had an x in our equation. So this y and this x will always stay there. We already said m is what again? Good, m is the slope. And then the other things that are there, x1 and y1 is a point. If I can get my stylus to work, on the line. Okay, so now I have broadened my tool belt, if you will. Okay, I only was able to write an equation or graph if I was given the slope and the y-intercept. Now I'm going to broaden that a little bit. Now I can say, well, give me the slope and any point on the graph. So now if you give me any point on the graph, I can still write an equation and graph, okay? So let's look here. So A. So this is when I start asking myself questions. Oh, my Apple TV. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is when I start asking myself questions. Okay. What information is given to me? So what do I have? 3 is what? Come on, guys. It tells you right there. Slope is 3. Okay. So my 3 is the same as my m. And then what is this point that they give me? 2, 6. But what is that going to become in my formula? X1, Y1, right? That's what that little line underneath our formula showed us, right? Where m is the slope, X1, Y1 is a point on the line. So this is going to be X1 and Y1. So literally, the only thing, well, I won't say the only thing. The main thing that point slope is good for is an intermediate step. All of our final answers, almost 95% of problems that you look at, will ask you to have a final answer in slope-intercept form. Okay? So this is just more of like an intermediate step that we're using to get to slope-intercept form. So if I'm given a point and a slope like this, I'm going to use point-slope form. So let's go ahead and plug it into our formula. So I have y minus, and then what's my y value? Did they give me? 6. Equals m. So what's the m value they give me? 3. Parentheses x minus, and then what's the x value they give me? 2. That is, let me slide over here. This right here is point slope form. And like I said to you, most questions that they will ask you for a final answer in slope-intercept form. So again, let's go back there. So what was the glaring attribute of slope-intercept form? How did we know something was in slope-intercept form? Ethan? Y is by itself. So I need to get it that way. Okay, I need to get it that way. So in order to get y by itself, I first need to get rid of parentheses. And then I'm going to have to get rid of that minus 6. Okay, so get rid of the parentheses. How do we do that? Multiply, distribute. Okay, so I'm distributing that 3 into the parentheses. So I have y minus 6, that's going to stay put, equals, now 3 times x is 3x, and 3 times negative 2 would be a negative 6. Don't forget to distribute that into both pieces inside the parentheses, not just the first piece. Okay, and then the last step in getting y by itself would be add 6. Make sure you add it to its like term on the other side. Don't add it to the x term. So I have y equals 3x, and what's negative 6 plus 6? 0. So you can put a plus 0 back there if you want to. We don't necessarily have to. So this is my final answer of slope-intercept form. And guys, just FYI, that is purely coincidence that my y-intercept, my b term at the end, disappeared. Okay? Don't expect like every problem happens that way. This is just a coincidence that this problem did that. Okay? All right, so now I want you to take those skills and I want you to try B together with your groups. Go ahead. Okay, so my negative 1/2 would be my m. And then in the parentheses, I always have x1 comma y1. Okay, so I have, for my formula, y minus y1. So what's y1? Negative 2. So this is when being careful with the formula becomes very important, right? Because I have y minus a negative 2. So anytime I see that minus a negative, then it changes to plus a positive. So don't be careless and just do y minus 2. Okay, so be careful. So y minus a negative 2 equals m, which is a negative 1/2, parenthesis x minus a negative 4. So again, that minus a negative pops up. Becomes plus a positive. So that is my part of my answer. That's my point slope. But remember, most of my final answers will be in slope-intercept, so I distribute. So I have y plus 2 equals negative 1/2 times x is negative 1/2 x. Negative 1/2 times 4 would be negative. Well, let me just show this. Okay, so remember, multiply the tops, divide by the bottom, because once it becomes a harder fraction, I want you guys to have this knowledge. So negative 1 times 4 would be negative 4. Divided by 2 would just be negative 2. So minus 2. And then last step in getting y all by itself, subtract 2 from both sides. And I have my final answer, y equals negative 1/2 x minus 4. And then that's my slope-intercept. Okay, can I get a comfort level on how we're doing so far? Okay. All right, so let's look now at what it says as example 1. It's really probably example 2, but we'll look there anyways. Okay. So example 1 says, write the equation of the line through those 2 points in slope-intercept form. Okay. So this is a good question. This is a good representation of a question you might be asked on test quizzes, ECA, any of the above. Okay, so write a line, or write the equation of a line through those 2 points in slope-intercept form. So remember, on the very first day, I talked to you guys about how algebra is mostly, number 1, where do I need to go? Number 2, what am I given? And number 3, how do I get to where I need to go? Okay, so those are the things we have to think about working through this problem. So first, where do we need to go? We need to write slope-intercept form. So do we have slope? No. Do we have a y-intercept? No. So we're pretty far away from slope-intercept form right now because I don't have either of those pieces. Well, what am I given? 2 points. So then we have to figure out, well, how do we get there? Well, we can't go straight to slope-intercept form because we neither have a slope nor a y-intercept. What other forms of lines do you know? Yeah, what's the one we're using today? Oh, man. Point slope form? Okay, so point slope form. So let's see if we can use point slope form. So do we have a point?
Yes.
Yeah, we actually have 2 of them, right? Do we have a slope? No, so I'm still kind of stuck. Do you see it, because we don't know any other forms of line, so do you see any way of getting that piece of information that we're missing? Travis?
You can find the slope from the 2 points.
You guys remember how to do that? Okay, so what are we missing? We're missing the slope, right? In either case, we're missing slope. So let's find it. M equals, all right? So we have a fraction bar and 2 minus signs. What go on top? Y. Perfect. Okay, so 7 and 1 go. 7 and 1 go up on top. X's go down on bottom, so that would be negative 1 and 2. So 7 minus 1 on top is 6. Negative 1 minus 2 on bottom would be negative 3. And then 6 divided by negative 3 is negative 2. So I have a slope. Nope, that's just our slope. That's just our M. So we have our M, our slope. Okay, now let's go back. So we needed slope-intercept form. So now do we have the slope? Yes. Do we have the y-intercept? No, we still don't have that piece. So I still can't go straight into slope-intercept form. So can we now use point slope? Do I have a point? Yes. Do I have a slope? Yes. So I can use point slope form then to get to slope-intercept form. So at this point we have 2 points to pick from. So let's just, honestly it does not matter which one you pick. But for the sake of all doing the same thing, let's pick one for the class to use. So would you rather use negative 1? 2, 1?
Yeah, 2, 1.
That looks good. Okay, 2, 1 it is. So let's use 2, 1. So at this point, I choose a point. I already have my M, and now I'm writing point slope form. So what? And FYI, point slope form and slope intercept. You probably didn't notice this on the formula sheet last time, but point slope form and slope intercept form are both on your formula sheet that you'll use on tests and quizzes. Okay? The slope formula is also on there. So these are not things you have to memorize, but these are things obviously you have to recognize, hey, I'm given 2 points, so I need to use point slope form. Those are things you need to recognize, okay? All right, so here we go. So y minus y1, what's our y1? 1, right? From the point that we picked, our y value is 1, equals my slope that I just found of negative 2, parenthesis x minus x1, and the x value from the point we picked is 2. And then remember, be perseverant. Don't just write an equation and be done. It asks you for a final answer in slope-intercept form, so get it in slope-intercept form. So I have to distribute first. So I have y minus 1 equals negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. Last step, get y by itself is add 1. And I have a final answer of y equals negative 2x plus 5. And there's my final answer. Okay, so you have to think about what do I need to get? What am I given and how do I get there? Okay? All right, so I'm going to let you guys do the next try this problem together with your partners. Go ahead. Okay, so you can see on my board, on my screen up there, I find slope first because that's the piece of information that I'm missing. I find a 1/2. And then from there you can see I have an or on my screen. And the reason I have an or on my screen is because I could pick the 0.25 and that would be my work on the left-hand side in the blue. Or I could pick 4, 6 and my work is on the right-hand side in the red. Notice that the point slope form is going to be different based on which point you pick, and that's okay. But the slope-intercept form should be the same no matter what. That's why we like slope-intercept form. Because really there's only one right answer. Okay? That's kind of why slope-intercept form is nice. Alright, so can I get a comfort level here given 2 points? Okay. Alrighty. Practice is going to make perfect here. Okay? Practice is going to make perfect. That's what we got to focus on today because this stuff is not easy. Okay, let's look at special cases just really quick. Okay? So we start out a special case problem because obviously we won't know it's a special case until we get a special slope. So we start these out just like we would on any other problem. So on A and B here at the bottom of the page, what piece of information are we missing? Slope, right? So let's find slope. So on A, let's find slope. So fraction bar and 2 minus signs, y is on top, so 5 and 5, x is on bottom, 3 and negative 5. So 5 minus 5 is 0 on top, 3 minus a negative 5 would be 8 on bottom. So I have 0 over 8. Now this is when some of the old stuff has to kick in. What slope is this?
Air. Undefined.
Is it 0 or undefined?
Undefined is where it's horizontal.
Yeah, 0.
I'm not asking which one's vertical and horizontal. I'm asking what this is.
It's undefined. 0.
You guys are so divided. What is 0 divided by 8? 0. What is 8 divided by 0? No, that'll give you the error when the 0 is on bottom. If the 0 is on top, this is a slope of 0. Okay? Alright, so conceptually, you just have to think about this. There's no math trick I can help you with here. Okay? I'll do the best I can, but I can't make any promises. Okay? You just have to conceptually think about this. So everybody has to do this with me, okay? So we find there's a slope of 0, and I know it's a special case. Deciding which one is the hard part. So everybody show me a 0 slope with your arm. So 0 slope is going to be the horizontal, right? So 0 slope is going to be the horizontal. Think about it. If I put a car on it, it's going to go 0 miles per hour, right? Okay, so I have the 0 slope. What kind of values are these? Is this an x equals line or a y equals line? This is y equals. Remember, it's opposite the axis. Remember we talked about this during warm-up? The vertical axis is the y-axis, but then a y equals line is opposite of that. It's horizontal. So I'm going to have a y equals line here. From the points, what is the y value that they give you? From the points, what is the y value that they give you? 5, right? Here it tells you 3, 5, my y value is 5. Here it tells you negative 5, 5, my y value is 5. So my special case here is y equals 5. That's the equation. Remember, the special cases are missing a variable. So it's either y equals a number or x equals a number. You can also look at what is being repeated in the points. Okay, when you see a slope of 0 or undefined, you know you have a special case. Just come back to the points and say, okay, these points share a y value of 5. So y equals 5. That's it. So B, again, I wouldn't know it's a special case just by looking at it. So I have to find my slope. Fraction bar and 2 minus signs, -3 and 8 on top, 2 and 2 on bottom. So -3 minus 8 is -11, 2 minus 2 on bottom is 0. So what happens when the 0 is on bottom? This one is undefined. So this one is an undefined slope. So everybody show me an undefined line with your arm. Up and down, and what kind of line is that?
Vertical.
Is it x equals or y equals? X equals, right? So x-axis, everybody look at me. X-axis, x equals line. Y-axis, y equals line, right? It's opposite. So we have a vertical line, which would be an x equals kind of line. What does x equal from the points that they give you? 2. Looking at my points. And you can also just look and say, okay, these two share an x value of 2. So my line is x equals 2. So those are my special cases, okay? When you get a 0 or undefined slope, you know you have a special case. See what the ordered pairs share, and that's your answer. Okay? All right, around to the back. Okay, so we have a couple graphs, and we've learned how to write the equation of a graph that's given to us. But all of the ones that we've looked at so far show the y-intercept. And you'll notice here on example 2, it does not show the y-intercept. So again, I have to be skilled enough to know how to write an equation of a line even if I'm not given the y-intercept. So what information can you pull from this graph? A point. Okay, so let's find some points. So I could pick this point, or this point, or this point. For the sake of all of us having the same work here, let's pick one together. So which one would you like to use? Negative what?
-2, 1.
Okay, is that okay with everybody? -2, 1. Okay, we'll use this point right here. So -2, 1. Okay, so what other piece of information can you pull off of this graph? Slope, right? If I have 2 points, I can find the slope between them. So I'm rising up 1, 2, 3, and running over 1. So my slope is 3 over 1, or just 3. So now what information do you have? A point and a slope. So what form should I use? Point slope form, just like it asked me. Okay. So then I can put in my information. Y minus the y value I'm using is 1 equals m, my slope, which is 3, parenthesis x minus x1, which is a -2. And anytime I see that minus a negative, changes to plus a positive. So I have y minus 1 equals 3, parenthesis x plus 2. If it asked me to put it into slope-intercept form, I certainly could, right? Distribute and add 1 to both sides and you're done. Okay, so now I would like you guys to transfer and apply this knowledge, okay? So I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to do the word problem down at the bottom, okay? So it has a part A, B, C, and D. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to work, okay? So go ahead. Okay, here we go. All right, so it gives me some information. Guys, in the past, we've always been given some kind of rate of change, and we're always given some kind of starting value, right?
Right.
Okay? So always in the past, we've always been given some kind of rate of change and some kind of starting value. In which case, we would have the slope and the y-intercept, because that starting value is generally the y-intercept, and then I can write an equation in slope-intercept form. That's what we've practiced over and over and over again. This problem is a little different. So when some of you came to write the equation, you started doing it in slope-intercept form, and we can't quite do that. Okay? So it gives me the Townsend Simon. They put water and trash pickup on the same bill. You get a flat fee that we don't actually know. Okay, so it tells me in my paragraph that I have 25 cents per gallon water charge. What does that sound like to you? When we say words like per gallon, yeah, Max. That doesn't sound like a total to me. Travis?
Multiply?
Okay, a multiplier. What do we call that in our equations when we have a multiplier? This is part B. That 0.25 per gallon becomes our slope or our rate of change. So the M, let me get my pen. M is going, so for part B, M equals 0.25. So that's my slope. And then it also gives me some other information. It gives me an input-output. So the input is I'm putting in a certain number of gallons of water. The output would be my total bill. So if I put in X, 44 gallons of water, then I get out Y, $16 for my bill. So I can set up a point, 44, 16. So for A, I have a point, 44, 16. For B, I have a slope or a rate of change of 0.25. So given a point and a slope, what form of a line should I probably write? Not a trick question. Point slope form, right? So you have to think about the information that's given to you and how you can write an equation. So my equation would be y minus the y value that I was given, so 16 equals 0.25 parentheses x minus 44, which was the x value that I was given. So then I distribute, I have y minus 16 equals 0.25x minus 0.25 times 44 would be 11, add 16 to both sides, and you get y equals 0.25x plus 5. So that looks a little more familiar because I have y by itself. So now part D, what does that y-intercept represent in my problem? Because the y-intercept, remember, is always the initial value, and this is usually I'm given that initial value. This time I'm not given that initial value. Flat fee for what? Trash pickup, right? There was a flat fee for trash pickup, and then the 0.25 times the number of gallons of water was my water fee. Okay, so when I solve down, that 0.25x becomes my water fee, and the plus 5 that's left over is my trash pickup. So 5 is flat fee for trash. Okay, so we have $5 as the flat fee for the trash. Okay, so you have to be able to take information that's given to you, understand what form of a line is going to be best for you to use, and roll with it. Okay, we've practiced a lot just writing equations in slope-intercept form, but sometimes you're not going to be given that intercept or that initial starting value. Okay, alrighty.